Welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is the second day of the Go ESG ASEAN Corporate Sustainability Virtual Summit, ASEAN's premier virtual corporate sustainability conference and exhibition focusing on ESG and sustainable development. My name is Frida Liu. We'll continue with our second panel session, and topic is on corporate leadership for the ASEAN we want. Our esteemed panelists for this session, Ayam Berbahagia, Dato' Haji Charbini Suhaili, Group Chief Executive Officer, Sarawak Energy, Ms. Corinne Tap, President Director, Danone Aqua Indonesia, Ms. Gunjan Soni, Chief Executive Officer, Zalora, Dr. Prakon Peter Tawachai, President, the Stock Exchange of Thailand. And to moderate this session, please help me welcome Mr. Nitin Jaiswal, Head of Government Affairs and Strategic Relations, Bloomberg LP, Asia Pacific. Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, Freda, for the kind introduction. And so good morning, and I hope you and the family are doing well. So when I look at what a difference a year can make for all of us, if we have done the same discussion a year back in 2019, our optimism and our challenges would have been completely different than what we are seeing now. For many businesses and business leaders in ASEAN and around the world, it is a complete reset of opportunities and challenge. We are in a new world, and a new world will require new thinking from our leadership. So what does that new thinking from our corporate leadership will and should look like, which will help ASEAN in capitalizing its opportunities, will be the topic of our conversation. And for this, we have a very interesting and diverse panel. So we have 4 different industries from 4 different countries. Each one of them have different passion, but one thing which connect is they care about environment, they care about sustainability, and they care about the ASEAN growth story. So without taking much time, I'm going to invite my 4 panelists and focus my conversation on 3 broader topics. The first one I'm going to focus on is the personal leadership lesson, which all of us have learned managing this crisis. And then we'll look at what are the opportunities and challenge in post-COVID world, looking from the sustainability perspective largely, and also to find out from you, for other leaders' benefit, how can we capitalize on this opportunity and overcome the challenges? So these are the 3 broader themes we will have our discussion on. And of course, we will invite the audience to participate by asking us questions, and please share your questions so that I can bring it at the appropriate time for the discussion. So with that, Ratu, let me start with you. And Sarawak is one of the largest player in the sustainability and energy space. And we were discussing earlier, you have what, 5,500 employees, very large. How did you basically, manage yourself in the current crisis? What has been your learnings from the current crisis?
Thank you, Nitin. In terms of crisis, you need to lead from the front, right? And I think as a GCO, it is very important that I make clear what are the key priorities for the organization. And basically, the communication lines are very clear, and basically as well the focus in the organization remain. Yeah. So our priority is still to basically to keep the lights on for the state, and to ensure that basically our people are safe. Yeah. And our focus areas in the organization still remain. So as the primary provider of power in the state, we need to ensure that we keep the lights on, and the power to the industry and the people in the state are there. So our key focus areas, which is to achieve excellence in HSSE, in project delivery, in operations, in talent management, in high performance culture, needs to remain. And we need to really emphasize it during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, thank you, Datu. So, I think I got 5 key points, which I will summarize, the common themes which are emerging. So, Karin, let me move to you. You have, 15,000 odd people, and one of the largest, I think the largest watcher in the, player in Asia, in a diverse market like Indonesia. So how has been your experience dealing with the current crisis from leadership perspective? Yeah, Corinne? Can you hear me, Corinne?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I hope
okay.
you hear me well because we have some Wi-Fi challenges. Can you hear me well?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think in the meantime, let me
Okay.
move to,
Yeah,
okay,
there's
so
a
you're
bit
right.
of a
Okay.
instability. So yes, indeed, COVID-19, I think honestly has the defining moment for all of us, for us as leaders as well as for our business.
Yeah.
Maybe you.
I think we are having some challenges hearing you. So I think let me move to Gunjan as we get Corinne back. Gunjan, I guess my daughter has kept your organization busy by constantly shopping during the whole pandemic while she was still at home away from school. So we would like to, in the time of crisis, people always look up to leaders. At a personal level, how did you adapt to the whole crisis from a leadership perspective?
Sure, Nathan. I think first of all, it was really a wake up call. I think for many leaders, and we had to first and foremost draw on I think many of the same leadership toolkits, but really be a lot more authentic and clear about what we wanted to achieve. And I think the priorities became sharper and clearer in many ways. So, one of the biggest lessons is probably, how important it is for leaders to communicate. I think in this crisis, given how remote, we had to work together and still be together, I think communicating and perhaps even over communicating has been a big part of the focus, keeping our employees together because there was also a lot of anxiety on what's going to be the impact, especially in the phase of the crisis. The second thing was really, being very sharp and clear and decisive. And I think when the environment is more and more uncertain, uh, all stakeholders and especially employees look to you for reducing that uncertainty. And I think that's where we need to be even more decisive, clear about what we want them to do, how we want to serve our customers. And that's what we did. The top priority, of course, was ensuring the safety and well-being of in the entire Zalora workforce. And this meant many changes in how we work, especially for our frontline staff in the warehouses, who are continuing to work to be able to serve our customers, like your daughter, who were actually very keen and perhaps even more so to fulfill their needs, and everybody was looking to online players. So that's been a big focus, and we changed how we work very quickly. We also changed how we serve the customers. So I think contactless delivery, for example, is now a name that people are taking very easily. And I think some of these practices will be fantastic even in the post-COVID era, and something we can learn and draw from. At the same time, we looked to find newer ways to help our customers, and that has meant a complete shift in categories, which I'm happy to talk about a bit later. But from a leadership perspective, I think I'll stick to those two. I think being very clear about the vision on how we're going to handle the crisis, decisiveness, and then communicating that with empathy, positivity, and clarity to your employees, I think is the single biggest leadership lesson for me.
Yeah, that's a good insight, Gunjan. So, Dr. Pakon, so let me move to you. So, we have been communicating during this crisis for quite some time, different topics and issues, and you have navigated the set, the direction. But at the personal level, what has been your experience dealing with a crisis?
Sure. I would say on behalf of our organization and our client who are the listed company, what we have noticed is that at the moment after the crisis and the new normal world, what we are seeing is that they are trying to rebuild their revenue, rethink their strategy, and they try to sustain their continuity. In these three objectives, what we find is that the first thing, we have seen a lot of product and service redesign. They are trying to use a lot of like e-commerce, data analytics, and sanitary standard improvement to ensure that for the new world or for the new world after the COVID, that system, that services would be able to provide to the customer in a more efficient way. The second thing that we saw is the process improvement. We are seeing a lot of new improvement to ensure the continuity, connectivity, and the accessibility for the service to the client, not just for the client, but also for the employees. Third thing that we noticed, financial management, liquidity management, and the diversified supply chain. Those are the things that we have noticed our listed company and even for ourselves to are trying to improve this to ensure that if the crisis come again or there is a second wave, we would be able to survive that. And the last thing, which is to me is very important and the most important issue, the people-centric thing. We found that nowadays the company are trying to ensure that people, that employee can work from home or work from anywhere through all the digital process and digital connectivity so that the service will be continued. Those are the four things that we have been noticing after all this crisis, and I think that would remain in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. So let me go back to Corinne. So Corinne, from your perspective, what has been some of the lessons you learned from managing the crisis? Yeah, Corinne? I think we still have, Raj, can you help? I think we have some issues hearing Corinne. Okay. Okay. I think there is some internet issues at Corinne's side. We will try to, correct that. But I think let me, move to a lighter tone before we go to the more serious stuff. And I think this also has given time, the fact that we were not traveling and for large part we were working from home. How did you guys actually use this time to maybe reinvent yourself or invest in some skill or something more you wanted to do, but earlier because of time constraint you couldn't do? So Gunjan, let me start with you. One or two things you picked up, something interesting you would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I don't think, first and foremost, I've been a consultant for most of my previous life before I moved into the corporate world. And with the husband who was also partner at McKinsey, we've always been very challenged with travel schedules. So I think COVID just made us realize what many people would a normal life looks like, being home every day. And I think that opened up many avenues. And definitely, this crisis has also been a wake-up call for, I think, being healthy for all of us. So we went back, used technology, and have a teacher been teaching us Zoom for now. I think we last finished 140 lessons, is what she tells us. So I think that's a personal best. I don't think I've done that many yoga sessions probably in the last 10 years. So, and I think that's something we're going to stick to now religiously. So I think, yes, this crisis has been a wake-up call at the personal level as well in many ways.
Yeah. That's the same thing with you. Anything interesting you picked up?
Well, I think, as an organization, this has accelerated a lot of things we had in our plan. For example, in terms of digitalization, before the MCO, we are implementing our ICT blueprint as part of our Sarawak Energy Excellence 2022 vision, where we want to go from good to great and become a digital utility by 2025. And this pandemic has accelerated a lot of them, but it has as well ensured that there is smooth implementation of our new working arrangement and the group SOP. And we have actually transformed in many ways in the way we do things, but we do remain quite efficient in terms of by working differently and learning to achieve a lot more with the same resources that we have. And our new working arrangement, for example, we maintain a maximum of about 30% of staff at the workplace at one time, with the rest working at home where possible. But of course, the essential staff that needs to be on site or at the work location will continue to be there. And it actually helps a lot of things in terms of the environment as well, because we make some estimate that the average reduction in carbon emission is about 40 kilogram a day for our headquarters alone, because people are not commuting to the office.
Yeah.
And we're putting a lot of digitalization initiative like remote control and smart system as well, and a lot of our manual processes now has been automated. So we have electronic signatures. Our procurement is now on e-procurement, and we have smart substation surveillance system, CCTV, and all this kind of thing. But on top of that, we need to ensure that our people remain being able to work in this new environment. So we have introduced digital literacy activities and programs to ensure that and empower our people to become what we call digital people. Yeah. And on the customer side, most of our customers have registered now on our SEB Cash mobile app since the movement control order in Malaysia. And currently, more than 30% of our customers are registered on this mobile application. And we've also introduced online electricity supply application and smart meters to allow customers to process the application from home. So this experience has given us great confidence as an organization, and is a positive push in accelerating our growth plan to be the top quartile utility in the region. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you raised, which I would like to pick up and go to Doctor, because he's been a big believer in the whole concept of sustainability and ESG as well. And something which earlier you talked about is a redesigning of product and redesigning of processes using technology, and this is exactly what Datu talked about, and how he has adopted that in his organization. So I think a lot of organizations are using this downtime to really change some of the processes and bring in more digitization. So from the sustainability perspective, Doctor, what has been the biggest learning you have seen working with the corporations and the leaders in Thailand?
Sure. First of all, I totally agree with all the digitization evolution at the moment. It's not just transform the process, but it's also transform the product and services. And in doing so, because now digital become a mean to deliver the service. For example, in the past, Thai company, when they send all the information to the exchange, they send it through maybe email or something like the PDF file. But nowadays, we provide them a platform so that they can send information to us through an application as a machine readable format, so that nowadays all those information on anything, financial performance or ESG, can be delivered to the analysts all over the world. And they will use that to estimate the value of the ESG activities that each company are doing. So this is the thing that we are trying to promote, because we believe that in doing ESG, it needs to come from the top and also have to come up from the bottom also, so that everyone doing it day by day. And also the top of the company has a direction for the company to look at the ESG as a risk management tool. So this is the thing that we are trying to promote. First, we try to promote the company to support this ESG function. And then we are trying to also give all this information to the analyst or the investor who demand to know all these facts, so that they can assess the valuation or the value added that this company get from these ESG activities. In my opinion, this would be the thing that will result in the future, because nowadays all the AI and all the analysts, all the news agency are using the machine AI, the artificial intelligence, to input all this information. So that's why I think that in the future, this ESG and the digital would come together and would provide more value for the company who embrace these ESG practices.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. So we got Corinne back. So Corinne, so let's hear from you the personal experience you have, in terms of your leadership experience managing this crisis and managing 15,000 people.
Yeah, I'm truly sorry that this is happening now. So can you hear me now, Nitin? Is this all right?
Yes, absolutely clear. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, obviously, COVID has been a defining moment, I think, for all of us as leaders, for our businesses, for our people. And I think now more than ever, in my role as the head of the Danone Waters business for Indonesia and for Southeast Asia, and I have felt that our vision of One Planet, One Health has been more relevant, has never been so much relevant as it is been in the last 7 or 8 months. Because everything we do, and our purpose, but everything we do in life obviously is related with improving the lives and the health of people, but it cannot be happening if the health of the planet is not being taken care of. And I think there is a fundamental realization of the global communities that the health of the planet and the health of people is interlinked and connected. So what we did when it all started is, first and foremost, is with 15,000 people in our operations in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, is to protect our people and protect our business. So supplying essential products such as healthy hydration and nutritional products. Obviously, it was key for us that we kept our organization and our business running and our supplies running to make sure that we could support consumers everywhere. But we could not do that without making sure that our employees would be safe and that they would be able to work in a safe environment. So that's what's been going on from the first moment, in ensuring that 15,000 people could go to work and back home in a safe environment. And we're very proud of being able to do that. Then after that, we extended that to our full network because there's around 2 million families in Indonesia only, completely depending on our businesses. They're part of our supply chain, they're distributors, they are agents, they are suppliers. And we wanted to make sure that also they were protected in the way they were operating in order to protect our business as well. What we then started to realize is that on top of our own eco channel, obviously the whole world and the whole country was in a deep challenging period. So we also said, how can we use our resources to support the government in fighting COVID-19, all the frontliners that are working for the government, supporting the fight of COVID-19, but also looking at maybe the not so visible populations, such as the waste pickers that actually were hit mostly by this crisis. As you may know, in Indonesia, as in some other countries, the waste management is completely dependent on the informal sector, waste pickers that are actually getting an income for their families based on picking of waste. And in the crisis, actually, they were hit severely and often not able to collect any waste because they were banned from entering communities. And as a result of that, they weren't able to get any income from their families. So we worked together with NGOs to also look at how we could support these part of the population, the weakest in our society, making sure that they would go through this period and still be able to feed their families and get access to health care. So to finalize maybe on this, I think what we've realized again is that One Planet, One Health is crucial for us as a vision, as a company, and that COVID made that even more clear and true than ever before, and that it has really helped us to accelerate the implementation of One Planet, One Health whilst driving our business in this part of the world.
Yeah. So thank you, Corinne. So, now I can summarize the 4 key leadership lessons which connect all 4 of you, which will be easy for our participants to, take away. I think one of the things which has come out, so I have 4 points which I would like to summarize the first part of the conversation. I think this crisis has truly shown the concept of one world, one planet, one world. The way the supply chain, the way the people, everybody has come together to rally behind each other has clearly shown that we are moving in the direction of one planet, one world. I think the communication has come out in all the 4. I think communicating with all the stakeholders, not only employees, but even with your clients and the families is the key leadership lesson, one we should continue. And the second one is be on the, stay focused on your vision, but at the same time, ensure that you use this opportunity to redesign your product and processes to stay relevant, stay true to your vision. And the third and the most important one is, people. End of the day, it is the people who drive the business, and they have to be at the center of everything we do. And if we actually focus on all these 3 things, and what I have seen the performance of all the 4 of organization which you run has clearly shown that this kind of leadership attitude works well, and it has shown the benefits. So that has been my takeaway from the leadership lessons from managing the COVID crisis, these 3. So we were actually talking about the sustainability, which is again a very big focus for the leaders here. And when we spoke with Datu and Dr. Pakon, so they talk about the concept of digitization, how it is actually being used. Let me go to Gunjan. So you are in the epicenter of the whole concept of digitization, artificial intelligence, everything what has been talked about. So what next for you, Gunjan? Because the world is moving already to the platform which you guys have actually come up quite some time back with digital. What next for you guys?
I think this is just the beginning because if you look at adoption rates for digital, they have been still significantly low in our ASEAN countries. It's changing rapidly. But what is also happening is as people get more comfortable with technology, I think there are more avenues becoming available on how we can, continue to delight our customers even more, right? So from a technology standpoint, I see more immersive technologies, AR, VR emerging, even more clearly and having an impact on how we reach out to our customers and are able to serve them even better. So I think that's definitely a shift we see. I think data centricity is becoming even more important. So in the middle of this crisis, we realized that while we were sitting on a lot of rich data, actually our brand partners, were actually not getting access to it and were struggling badly, especially in markets like Southeast Asia and the ASEAN region. Information was not easily available, and their supply chains were getting completely disrupted. So one thing we did was to actually very quickly launch a tool called Trenda, which basically allowed our brand partners to be able to get access to trends. It even had a COVID situation room, so basically you could check, what was selling before, what is selling now, and there are various ways for them to then be able to redesign both their production plans, but also their supply chain to be able to match. And I think that plays a big role in minimizing wastage. Often on sustainability, we don't really think about wastage. I think that's a very, very big angle that needs to be solved for, especially in the retail industry. The other thing which is related to the sustainability topic we did was to actually not treat it as optional. And actually, we launched officially our sustainability vision, which was in the works, of course, but we chose to still announce it between March and April, despite the COVID crisis, because I genuinely felt that actually this crisis is a wake-up call for all of us to actually be even more passionately being ambassadors of sustainable practices. So we unveiled that and we followed it up with some very real action, including launching something called the Earth Edit. So, like you said, as more and more customers are coming to online, I think one role that online can play is provide a lot more transparency. So, the Earth Edit actually allows our customers to be able to see products which have followed, one of any of the four criteria in terms of either following sustainable practices in their production, the way the factories and the employees had been treated, the materials being used, and even how the product has gone through its life cycle. So I think that's very, very empowering, and it allows the consumers to make an informed choice. But at the same time, it encourages the brand partners who came together to actually provide us with this information. And I think in the whole ecosystem, the awareness levels is increasing. The third thing we did was to also then get into what I believe will be quite transformative for our industry is circular fashion. The usage of product and the extension of its life cycle can be a super important lever, just as minimizing wastage in the initial stages of getting it to the consumer. So we launched that, and we've started it first with the more premium and luxury categories, but have been very pleased with the offtake. And I therefore see that there's definitely our consumers are ready, and in this region also we are seeing, basis all our surveys, that the willingness for people to go for sustainable products, whether it's value for money, which is what maybe the pre-loved category offers, or even when you have to pay a premium for a more sustainable product, people are opting for it very, very clearly.
Yeah, thank you, Gunjan, for giving us the insight of how a digital platform is trying to become more sustainable. Because when I see the flow of questions which come here, I think sustainability is definitely one of the key topics which people have a lot of interest in. So I've already 2 or 3 questions. So Karin, let me move to you. Continuing the topic of sustainability. So let me read out the question which I have here. In reimagining your business in the new normal, we'd like to hear about some of the actions taken to address current or emerging environmental and social issues affecting your industry, because you are directly involved with some of the natural resources. Then we move to hear from Sarawak how they are actually managing the sustainability part. Over to you. Yeah, Corinne, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I think, first of all, sustainability is part of our business strategies, at the heart of everything we do with our One Planet, One Health vision. And also for, maybe not everybody is aware of that, but APA has been a B Corp since 2018. We're actually the largest B Corp in this part of the world, in Asia, which means that we are audited by external parties in terms of how we use our resources as a force for good. And so for us, our strategy in sustainability is basically around three areas. We have the 000 ambition, as we call it. So 000 when it comes to carbon, water, and plastics. So obviously water is key, because we take water from nature, it's untouched by man, and we make sure that we provide the healthiest hydration, mineral water from Indonesia's active volcanoes to consumers as the best choice of hydration. But we also know that if we do not look after that nature, in the end of the day, it won't be sustainable. So we have implemented around our 22 factories very comprehensive plans to reserve or activities together with the communities, including farmers, to make sure that that the replenishment of the water, replenishment of the nature is happening. And we do that through tree planting, implementation of sustainable and regenerative farming practices, and constant measurement whether the water levels are still at the appropriate level. And also, even during COVID, we have continued to do that, because we know in some places in Indonesia, water levels are actually deteriorated by overdevelopment. So we have implemented also projects to make sure that we bring back nature to its old and original state. The second, with regard to CO2 reduction, and so we are quite excited about the renewable energy actions, but sometimes this is still very challenging, and the regulatory framework needs to be adapted. So we work closely with government and other stakeholders also to make that more conducive for businesses. And during COVID, we have implemented in now 5 out of our sites solar panels that will significantly reduce the amount of electricity being used. And we are well on our way for a fully solar panels industry, I'd say. Then lastly, about packaging. And packaging has always been very important for us, because plastic, in a way, is the most safe way to protect water, and it is the most durable way. But this strength of the material is also at the same time the weakness. So we have committed to not having any plastic go to nature. And by 2025, we completely circular. And we have done a lot over the last 10-15 years to build up an infrastructure and network to ensure that PET is being collected by a network of waste pickers that actually through this also get access to social and medical health care. And we continue to increase that. Actually, at the moment, we are opening up 2 more of these recycled business centers in the east of Java to help us collect more, but also to be able to provide more jobs to this part of the community. On top of that, we have been, in COVID particularly, when people spending more time at home, they also became more conscious of the amount of waste they produce. And at the same time, also, a lot of the food deliveries went up. So we have started a collaboration with Grab, so that people are able to actually have their plastic bottles and high-value plastic being collected by the Grab drivers when they come to their house, so that we ensure supply for our recycled business units and for our bottles, whilst avoiding that the plastic will end up in nature. Gunjan was also mentioning about, let's say, circular fashion. We have also worked together with one of the other players in the industry, H&M, to launch a first kids' clothes line that are made from PET bottles collected in Indonesia. It's a global fashion line. So another effort to make sure that the high value products are being collected and also recycled in a way that the value remains in the circle. Maybe lastly, I just want to show you a plastic bottle, which people think, oh, why do you show a plastic bottle? This is an innovation that has actually came to life last year. It's made 100% from bottles collected in Indonesia and it's the first Indonesian 100% recycled bottle, Aqua Life. And we are now also rolling this out and making a bigger part of our portfolio 100% recyclable and made from recycled materials. So clearly we haven't slowed down in the COVID crisis, but we have continued to commit to our ambition to be 000, and we will continue to do that next year onwards.
Thank you, Corinne, for sharing the concept of 000. That's quite interesting to know on that. So I think let me move to the next question. Focusing with Dr. Pokon and Datu. And this is focusing on the revenues, because one of the things which has happened is the revenues have come under pressure. Okay. And what steps have you taken to ensure business sustainability to the point where the sustainability fits in your organization strategy? Because being sustainable is an expensive proposition. If your revenue is going down, how are you going to continue focusing on the sustainability? So that, let me start with you, then I move to Dr. Pokon.
Very good question. People normally think that doing the ESG is costly. I would say so in the past. However, when you look at the moment, ESG, if it comes from the top and it comes from the bottom up, that they do it every day, it's not the CSR program anymore. It's not just a corporate social responsibility anymore, but it's more like a way that you manage your risk in the future. The way that you do the business, the way that you take care of the environment, take care of the social, so that your business can be continued consistently and sustainably. When you look at this ESG thing, one thing that you should keep in mind is that the ESG practice that you have to do have to be suitable and has to be meaningful for the business. Otherwise, it's not the ESG. It's more like the thing that you do for the publicity. But when you do the really into the ESG practice and you look at the industry that you are in, the size of the company that you are, and you choose the ESG activities that suitable to your company and meaningful to the investor who look into all this data, that would become more like an ESG in practice. And that is the way that the Stock Exchange of Thailand has been promoting, and we are trying to work with our listed company, and not just listed company, but all the company in Thailand to look into this, and also the ecosystem of the industry, like the analyst, like the investor, like the regulator, to come in and look into all these things and value it, so that the company has been recognized, and the investor look into this information and see that these are the things, the value added that this listed company have been doing. So I would say that you need to promote the ecosystem, and you need to promote the information to be transparent and easy to digest, and then get all these stakeholders to come in and look at each part and trying to make the market work.
Yeah, Datu?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that the worldwide focus on recovery is centered on sustainability and renewables. Yeah, and this places Sarawak and Sarawak Energy in a prime position. Today, Sarawak is already one of the largest renewable energy developers in the region. Our generation mix is about 75% hydro. Yeah, and due to this large hydropower in our gen mix, we are able to provide competitive electricity tariff to domestic, industrial, bulk, and also export customers. So as the customer move towards renewable and green energy, I think our business will grow in the future. Yeah, and we can share our renewable energy with our neighboring states, in Borneo and also in Southeast Asia. And recognizing that renewable and affordable hydropower support the diverse application of other renewables like solar and wind, we are conducting exploration on alternative renewables like solar and also hydrogen technology. And I think I'm sure you have seen that in 2019, we commissioned the first Southeast Asia's hydrogen production plant and refueling station, working together with Linde. Yeah. And this pilot facility laid the foundation for research on commercial viability of a hydrogen economy for Sarawak through the production, delivery, storage, and utilization of this fuel for the future, particularly in a tropical environment. And building upon this, we are bringing a lot of expertise from Japan and as well research capabilities with like-minded organizations like Petronas and other collaborators. In the firm, believe that the collective expertise of all of us will enable us to develop better research capability and contribute to the advancement of green hydrogen development, significantly adding to the existing body of knowledge regarding hydrogen-related activities and technology. So, as I said, we are sitting in a good place. We have a lot of natural resources. We have a lot of rivers. We have plenty of rainfall, for water. So I think we're in a good place, to position ourselves to participate in this future hydrogen value chain and contribute to sustainable energy future, and at the same time to decarbonize our energy system and augment what we already have via the hydrogen by the big hydropower to provide clean, renewable, and affordable energy for Sarawak. And we're also investing in Sarawak's first large-scale floating solar in our hydro dam. And I think the combination of solar, which is intermittent, and with hydro dam, which acts as a battery, I think it's a very good combination going to the future. And we have noticed that as we move, for the last 10 years, from 92% hydrocarbon in our gen mix to about 75% hydro today, that our grid carbon intensity has decreased by about 77% since 2009. So it shows that sustainability benefits from the gain from our renewable power and our pursuit of renewable energy. I think will stand us in a good position going forward. Yeah. And we are able to as well share that with our neighboring states like Kalimantan, and we are now talking to Sabah and also Brunei in terms of sharing our renewable hydropower. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Yeah. Now, I think when I look at the concept of sustainability, so one thing which emerged, like we have 4 different countries, 4 different industries, completely diverse and different industry, but the sustainability is the concept which connect all 4. And so you have started seeing this not as a cost center, but it is something which is essential in terms of doing the business. And the way you manage to do is by making it at the heart of your organization vision and effort, rather than, as Doctor said, just for the PR or the publicity side. It is not that anymore. It is actually about creating the impact. And as Datu said, that people have started seeing the real benefit of sustainability on the business. And once people start seeing the benefit of sustainability, they will stop ignoring that it is actually a cost issue and a revenue, and automatically the mindset will change. That's a very positive, theme which has emerged from this conversation. So we have another 13 minutes. So next part I would actually like to move on is, we talk about opportunities, we talk about all good things, but things have been extremely challenging. Okay, so let's look at from the leadership perspective, what has been the most challenging on the individual level, what has been the most challenging things you have faced as an individual leader, and also for your own business, what has been that and how you managed to overcome. So that will be a good learning for all the other leaders who are listening to this conversation. So let me start with Corinne, with you. Yeah, Corinne? Yeah, I think, okay.
Can you repeat the question one more time, Nitin?
Yes. Yeah, so we just wanted to quickly understand from all the 4 panelists, we all talked about all the positive things, but, things have been extremely challenging. At a personal level, as a leader, what has been the most challenging thing you have come across managing the COVID crisis? How did you overcome that? And at the organization level, what has been the most challenging thing and how did you manage to overcome that?
Okay, yeah, clear, thank you. I think the personal challenge is really to see the impact on the economy and so many communities as a result of this health crisis. Obviously, this health crisis has become more an economic crisis. And as a result of that, many people have been severely hurt. And unfortunately, it is always the people at the bottom of the pyramid that are being hurt mostly. Without jobs. Already in Indonesia, 9 million people are without jobs, and this number will continue to increase. We know that more than 30 million people hasn't had any education for 6 to 7 months now. which also is a huge issue not only for the children and their future, but also for the parents who have difficulty combining work and looking after the children at the same time. I already mentioned the waste pickers community, which is quite huge in Indonesia, which was severely hit as a result of the crisis. So I think it's the toughest is to see the impact of a full ecosystem as a result of this pandemic and the crisis. I think the other piece that as leaders we have experienced is COVID management in your teams. I mean, as a result of having such a large organization with so many people, obviously COVID also affects many of our people and their ecosystem. So I think we clearly accelerated and developed a new capability and skill in terms of how we can actually manage this, predict, anticipate where perhaps outbreaks will happen, and as a result of that, mitigate those and protect our people and protect our business as a result of that. So in a way, it's a positive outcome of something that we were never doing before. And I think it's as a leader. I mean, ultimately, it's really touching what is happening. But I think the optimism comes back when every time when I see our people still being able, despite these very challenging environments, to deliver the goodness that we bring as a company, to bring the One Planet, One Health, and to make a difference through our business on people and the planet, despite the challenges they face. And I think this is the optimism and the hope that we need, and the spirit that we need to recover the economy together as companies, together with the communities, with NGOs, with the government. Because in the end of the day, we need to recover out of this and make sure that that we get back on the growth trajectory that this region was on for a long time.
Yeah, thank you. Datu, what has been the most challenging personal leadership experience for you?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier on, we need to ensure that the organization keeps on moving, and to ensure that the people in the organization know what their priorities are during this, pandemic and this crisis, and that the communication lines are very clear, and that the management process are in place, and people are still focused on what needs to be done. And I've mentioned earlier on that our priority is to keep the lights on for people of Sarawak, and the safety of everybody is our number one priority. So among the things that we try to do is to ensure that our team of 5,400 people feel connected and are cared for, and we have made a number of major and minor decisions with these underlying philosophies. The first one is introduce enhanced flexible work arrangement. As I mentioned earlier, we are working either at home or on site or on rotation in the office. We provided staff care packages in terms of reimbursable relevant to COVID-19. We encourage kinder communication and check-in by our supervisors onto our staff to ensure that all of us stay connected. And we provide constant mental health alerts as well, because that is indeed an issue during this crisis. People staying at home and in one place and not able to go out. And we develop strict standard operating procedures to keep our people as safe as possible, and by prohibiting as well large face-to-face meeting. And we make mask mandatory in the office even before this was the national policy. And lastly, we emphasize care and kindness in our communication. I think the challenge is how do we keep this organization as agile, and how do we ensure that there is an adaptable mindset, because all of us need to adopt, and this is a reset of to what we have been doing in the past. Yeah? And how do we then continue to ensure that the whole organization focus on what we need to deliver as the single energy provider in the state. And we have a big task and responsibility to do that, and we need to ensure that the whole machinery works towards that objective. Yeah, thanks.
I have a follow-up question to you, Datu. So this is specifically on Sarawak Energy. How does Sarawak Energy ensure its contractors, vendors, suppliers are committed to SEB sustainable objective?
Yeah, in fact, we have a number of programs, a contractor transformation program, we call it, and we are very much in touch, and as well, we have a lot of engagement with all our contractors in the organization, and not only at the high level, but at the lower level of the organization. And we ensure that we keep our message to the organization being given to them as well. so that we are all aligned. Yeah? And in terms of sustainability development, we bring them into all of our what they call that events that we have, and in terms of all the communication we have on what the organization wants to do.
Thank you. So let me move to Dr. Pakon. So, I have a follow-up question on something, but let's hear from you. What is that one challenge, personal challenge you have faced while managing this whole COVID crisis?
The challenges is that how can you change the mindset of people who always thought that doing ESG or the sustainability thing is costly, and how to make them understand that this is a risk management way of doing the business sustainably. That is the first thing to me. Second thing is that once you be able to challenge them and change their mindset to go along with this idea, how can you make it consistent? How can you make it as a systematic way that the company or the board of directors are thinking that to be able to strategize the direction of the company, you need to consider ESG in the long run. That is the way that, to me, is very challenging. How can we make them aware that doing this gonna benefit the company through all the stakeholders? How can we support them to choose the right ESG activity? How can we help them to record the result of those ESG? How can we help them to transmit to communicate this information to the assessor or analyst or investor? How can we get all these people to come in and look at this number, look at this data, and value it, and make it recognize in the industry that this company has been doing good things, and then get the investor to concentrate and look into this information and award the company the additional value for their investment. And also, how can we get the regulator to come in and say that, hey, this is a good thing, and we could help them, give them subsidy somehow. Those are the things that, in my opinion, is the challenge, that how can we create the ecosystem so that this thing gonna be systematic in the future. And I would say that we have seen that a lot, and now the market start to force all these stakeholders to take into account all their responsibilities.
Yeah. So as I understand, I think, because there was one question about ESG data, how can people access that? I think as you said earlier, it is about technology. The whole concept of digitization is the one which is going to make that transformation of people reporting the whole ESG data much more easier. And also the shift within the leadership that, this is something they need to look at, care about, rather than just being a PR on that. Okay. So Gunjan, so I have like two parts to you. So one is, of course, the biggest challenge, and also the follow-up question, which is there: how do you integrate and promote the concept of circular economy into your process? What are the considerations for this?
Sure, happy to take them. So, Nitin, first of all, I echo a lot of the challenges shared by Datu in particular about COVID and managing it, especially with employees. So maybe just picking up a slightly different challenge from the mix so far around, I think it's especially in the early phase of the crisis, we were all bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of conflicting information, and shifts in patterns on how COVID is impacting. Every country was different. The evolution of cases, the way governments were deciding to respond was very different. And I think, one of the big challenges I saw was trying to make sense of all of that, because you can't really apply past rules to a completely new situation, and be able to crystallize it for what it means for your industry and your business, so you can provide a very clear strategic direction. I think that that has been a very important challenge, but also a leadership lesson on the side. And we had to, while people think that we're online and therefore everything would have been very rosy, that's not the case, because the use case for core fashion, which is one of our largest verticals, reduced dramatically because people were not going out. And when you're not going out, you suddenly don't need, especially in women apparel, you don't need breast as much, you don't need the high heels. a lot of the makeup products. So we saw that categories shifting dramatically. And we had to adapt very, very rapidly to both be able to help our consumers in the early phase where they were struggling even with essentials. So literally in 78 hours, I'm super proud of my team for being able to launch from months to sanitizers to many other products of immediate need because people were struggling to get access to them, and then evolve it into a more diversified portfolio. So today, many of the categories that we launched in last December, like beauty, kids, yeah, luxury, which we call emerging categories, are now almost one third of the business. So I think it's also very, very important to make sense of it all, and then be able to drive your business with a lot of agility, as I also alluded to earlier. On your second question around the circular economy, um, the way I see it is that it's an education process for multiple stakeholders. First and foremost, we saw that the biggest challenge is in actually getting access to quality and reliable supply. And all the consumer survey work we did, we found that actually 70% of our active customers were very interested in looking at what we call pre-loved, because we prefer that word to pre-owned. But their concerns were authenticity. Their concerns were, will the product, and especially, in a phase like COVID, would have been well treated and ensure that it's safe for future consumption. So I think first and foremost, supply and ensuring sustainable supply is very important for anyone considering circular economy, even across other product categories. Then consumer education comes second. The third was then actually using the right technology platforms to enable the right information transparency on the condition of the product, because that's not the kind of problems you deal with when you're actually dealing with regular products. Then the right tagging, still allowing the return value chain to work. So it has been a very educative process for us as well, to learn what this means and then be able to drive the change across the ecosystem. I think it's still very early stage and baby steps, especially in our part of the world. But if I look at the trend lines and if I look at all the data, it's certainly the right direction, and it has huge power because this doesn't always mean purchase, but this could also mean circulating it for helping the poorer sections of the economy by driving donation drives, and I think that's one use case we are very excited about trying out in the coming year as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we are like 2 minutes from our time. So I was just trying to summarize the different conversations we had. What are the key takeaways? So I have come up with 3 key takeaways from my perspective, and feel free to add if I miss something. So I think there is, in terms of sustainability, has become the mainstream now. Okay, so it is not something that is good to have, but it is must have. And so I think people are looking not at the cost center, but as a responsibility. And it has started showing results and performance, not only just a way of increasing the cost. And the second thing, what I have actually learned listening to all 4 of you, the concept of digitization, the process has accelerated. So maybe it has just getting started, but the process has accelerated. And this is the time which most of the leaders are using this downtime to accelerate that process of digitizing their businesses. They're doing it by redesigning their product, redesigning their processes to stay relevant. And the third most important thing is on the leadership, is where what I learned is that we have to be agile with our strategies, and we have to have empathy towards our people. And we take all these 3 into consideration, we are going to leave a very good business behind to the next generation of leaders, and also we are going to leave a very good world for the next generation of people who are going to inhabit this. So this has been my key learning and summarization of all. So I would like to take this opportunity to see if you have any last comments before we conclude the session. Any last comment from any of you? Doctor?
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
One of the most important thing that we didn't mention about the ESG impact is the unobserved value of reputation of the company who can avoid the crisis that could come up from the environmental or social issue. So I would say that by practicing the ESG, certainly one of the biggest value is the way that you can avoid such crisis. So please, I think, in my opinion, that is the value that we haven't mentioned about.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Corinne, you wanted to add something? Corinne? Yeah, Corinne, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, Corinne.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sorry. Just I want to add, I mean, yes, well, you're saying that sustainability is extreme. I would say that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and it requires all of us as leaders to adapt and lead the era towards lead the way towards the new era, balancing purpose and profit, and all companies should be legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, suppliers, community.
Yeah. Okay. Datu, you would like to
Yeah.
add? Yeah.
I believe as well that we need to be transparent regarding our performance, and particularly on sustainability performance. And that's why, of course, Rawa Energy will publish our annual reports and sustainability reports in accordance with the GRI guidelines. And in 2019, we decided to combine this document, the annual report and the sustainability report. And these documents are shared with internal and external stakeholders as a discussion platform for continuous improvement and to communicate both our financial and sustainability performance information. I think that's important that we are being transparent on this. Thank you.
That is correct. Yeah, yeah. So just I'll make a small tweak to my three conclusions. So I'll just say that the concept of sustainability and digitization, the process has just started, and it has to going to accelerate and gather speed because it has become the mainstream. Okay, and with the able leadership, I think we are going to accelerate this process much faster. And on that positive note, we are right on time. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the four panelists for sharing a very insightful conversation, I must say, from four different industries and four different geographies. And it has been a great learning for me. And I am pretty sure that everybody who's listening into this conversation also found some useful tips when they go back and manage their own leadership style. So thank you for your contribution, and thank you for your insights.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Nitin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Nitin, and to all our panelists, four different industries, four different geographies. Very interesting to hear that insight. Our next presentation, we have Mr. Hiroshi Komori, Senior Director, Stewardship and ESG, Public Market Investment, Government Pension Investment Fund, or GPIF from Japan, and he'll be talking about GPIF's ESG investment and stewardship activities.